Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is an updated version of the speedrunning Shaman that uses Avalanche, and we're going to change up some of the skills so that we can run more of them, have more instacast going off, and then with this build, due to the mana regeneration changes that happened in 8.2, we can now get more mana per second, which allows us to run this build much more smoothly and get more damage out of it, as well as add in a movement skill and not be afraid to use it as much as we want. Now it will take a little while to gear up the proper mana regeneration, but we did it in just one stream, going from 0 to hero to a point where we would go from negative mana to now we have extra mana to expend. This build is a very fast speedrunner. You literally go from the start to the beginning of a campaign full speed ahead. The only thing that will stutter step you is avalanches cast about every 8 seconds. Other than that, you'll constantly always be on the move, and you'll be using Wings of Argentus, the chess piece, to become a very tanky boy. Now with the addition of Maelstrom into the build, we will also have a lot of healing per second, as well as a lot of dodge. We'll be sitting at around 30%, but we are nowhere near min-maxed with that either. We'll have Tornado for some extra move speed, and if you really want it and you don't mind slowing down, you can also throw in Storm Totem and get more move speed with that, or a little extra damage with that totem. However, it will stop you every few seconds to cast one. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Avalanche, Tornado, Maelstrom, Summon Thorn Totem, and Ice Thorns. For Avalanche, we do have +2 levels. You do not have to have them, but they are nice to have. They'll mean a little more mana efficiency or a little bit more damage, depending on how you want to place them. We got 1 point in Mountain Peak, 1 point in Precision, and then 1 point in Wild Path, which makes it so that it's no longer channeled. It'll just cast for 8 seconds wherever you target. Then we got 4 points in Unyielding Storm for increased duration. This will actually raise it up to 8 seconds. The previous node just channels for 5. And then we have 1 point in Hailstorm. This makes it to where Avalanche will now follow you as you move, and this is the point we want so that we can speed run through echoes, and when everything's running behind us, it all gets hit by the Avalanche. And then 4 points in Naturally Occurring gives us 40% mana efficiency. Now, while you don't have to put points in here, you will need more mana regen if you do not put points in here. So if you put 0 points in here to get more damage or something else elsewhere in the tree, make sure that you're getting 25 to 26 mana per second, because that's about what it will take in order to upkeep all of your skills here. In this case, we have 40% mana efficiency, and with the skills as we have them set up, we only need 20 mana per second in order to keep it up full time, which should be pretty easy to get, especially if you have the mana regen when totems are active inside of your passive tree. We then have 2 points in Explosive Impact, which increases the avalanche and boulder impact area, 1 point in Mountain's Fury so that we have larger boulder impact area, and then 1 point in Frost to turn all the physical damage straight into cold damage, and Stun Chance will increase our freeze rate chance. Then we've got 3 points in Harsh Winter for more hit damage, and 3 points in Grounding because we will have totems active all the time for some even more hit damage with the skill. Then for Tornado, we have this set up to cast some lightning, but mostly we're using it for a buff, which will give us more mana regen, and it will also give us cast speed, so Avalanche won't take as long as a stutter step, and then also we'll get some move speed out of it. We got 3 points in Lasting Storm, 4 points in Hurricane, 1 point in Eye of the Storm, 1 point in Snapgale. This turns it into an instacast and gives it a cooldown so that we don't have to worry about stutter stepping with it. 1 point in Stool Storm reduces that cooldown with it. Then we have 1 point in Aspect of the Storm, so we'll get Aspect of the Storm for 2 seconds when we cast it. This will give us 10% increased move speed. Then with 4 points in Gust of Renewal, it'll also give us 12% mana regen. With 1 point in Storm Dervish, we will also get some cast speed with it, and 3 points in Swift Wings makes it last longer, so we can have 100% uptime of this buff. And the very last point goes in Charge Storm, so that Tornado will cast lightning every 2 seconds. Now while the lightning will not do that much damage, it is a little extra damage for you, especially since we are holding on to a two-handed staff with a lot of adaptive spell damage, which will affect that lightning strike. For Summon Thorn Totem, we have Summon Thorn Totem set up to proc. Whenever we do a hit with the idols, it'll have a % chance to be summoned. And we want as many as possible all at once, because it doesn't have a mana cost when it's procced through the idols. So we don't care about mana cost, we just want to make sure we have the maximum number available, so that when those proc, we get our resistances and we get increased damage. So we got 4 points in Forested Expanse. This increases the maximum number of them that you can have. 3 points in Eternal Forest will increase their HP and how long they last. And then 1 point in Grove Mine makes it to where they're all summoned at once. This reduces the maximum. By default you have 2, here you added 4, that puts you at 6, and here brings you back down to 5. But this does increase the mana cost by an additional 15 pi. How many of them you would have. Since we are having 5, that is 75 additional mana with 100% increase in mana cost. We end up here at about 150 mana cost, so don't manually summon it. Then we got 1 point in Ancient Power, 3 points in Impale, 5 points in Shred Armor, and 3 points in Winged Thorns, just to get some extra armor shred from them, as they're not going to be our huge damage dealer for us, but if they can shred armor, that'll let all of our other skills do more damage themselves. For Maelstrom, we have this set up for lightning, for dodge, for an instacast, for healing. We pretty much got a little bit of everything in here. So we got 3 points in Whirlpool, which gives our stack durations a longer period of time. Each stack of Maelstrom will last longer. 1 point in Power of the Storm, so that will cast lightning each second when we have 6 or more stacks, which will be at all times. 3 points in Sleep-Footed gives us 45 flat dodge rating per stack. You'll have 6 to 7 stacks, which should give you roughly 270 to 315 flat dodge rating, which if you have some increased dodge rating on gear, can easily give you 1,000 to 1,500 dodge rating points, which is pretty big. It's going to give you 20 to 30% dodge rating at level 100. 4 points in Calm for the mana efficiency, 2 points in Arctic Blast, 1 point in Sudden Gale turns it into an instacast. This does raise the mana cost and give it a cooldown, but of course with the mana efficiency it's reduced down to a point, and of course with the new mana regen in 8.2, you should be able to keep it up at all times. It will be possible as long as you have the proper gear. And then we have 2 points in Arctic Chill and 3 points in Healing Winds. Healing Winds will heal us for 6 health per stack, affected by healing effectiveness every second. So we'll have 6 to 7 stacks, which means you'll get 36 to 42 health healed per second, and you can easily get 200 to 300% healing effectiveness, which will increase that 36 to 42 up to 108 to 124 or whatever the other amount is, but you'll be getting over 100 to about 200 health healed every second, which is really nice. Then we have Ice Thorns, which is set up to be on instacast. It's going to constantly be going off, and it'll be free since we are wearing a two-handed weapon. So with 1 point in Emblem of Might, you have a 0 mana cost with it while a two-hander is equipped. It's supposed to be a melee weapon, but I guess everything counts as melee in this game. Not sure if that's just the tooltip being wrong. 1 point in Anima Philly gives it increased speed and range. 1 point in Thorn Shield means that when you cast it, you get a shield for 1 second, and then the Ice Thorns will go out and do their damage. This shield will give you 40 flat armor. 1 point in Second Nature turns it into an instacast, but gives it a 4-second cooldown. With 6 points in Floric Tides, this cooldown is reduced to just 1 second, and at the same time you will now get 30% critical strike avoidance for every one that you have. You will always have 1 active sometimes. Most of the time you'll have 2 active, and then if you have a lot of the extra recasts going, which we have 3 points in Bulb Shield for a 30% chance to recast, or a double cast if you will, you can get 90, 120, 150% critical strike avoidance from this. Now you can't always count on that, so you will want some on gear. We do have 100% even without this on our gear and our current setup, but of course that's not the most optimized way to have it set up, as we're wasting slots for critical strike avoidance. We got 5 points in Bark Shield to increase the armor we gain from 40 to an additional 100, so 140 total per shield, and 2 points in Eternal Protection makes it last for 1.6 seconds instead of only 1. For passives, for the Primalist class, we got 25 points with 6 in Gift of the Wilderness, 8 in Natural Attunement, 5 in Hunter's Restoration, and 1 in Wisdom of the Wild, with the last 5 in Berserker. And the reason for Berserker is so that we get that 30% damage reduction when we hit low life. We also get Endurance at about the same point, and that'll be 60% damage reduction. Together, they give us 72% damage reduction, which means it's about 3 times harder for mobs to kill you once you get to low life. The reason this is important is because we have really good health being healed every second, so when you get to low life, that last 700, 800 HP, it's like having a total of 2400 HP. So your first 1600 HP, or in this case, with how much I have on this with our gear, if you take a lot of that, you take a big hit and you're like, oh my gosh, that did 800 damage. Well, that same hit would only do about 200 damage when you get to low life. So it is actually very hard to die with this build, especially if you're moving around and you have the additional 40% damage reduction with Wings of Argentis. You're actually very, very tanky, but you might not always be at full life or even at half life. Most of that damage reduction comes into play when you hit low life, and you get healed for so much per second on top of having some leech that it's going to be very, very hard for mobs to kill you. They would have to basically get a straight out one shot or do a whole lot of damage in less than a 1 second time span, which can happen, but they're going to have to do a lot of damage in that time frame, and you have so much damage reduction, it's just really, really hard for them. We had no problem speed running through empowered and high corrupted maps, and when I say high corrupted, I mean like 120. I don't mean like 400. We haven't gone that high yet, but it's still, you know, the equivalent of what an empowered with hard modifiers would have been in the last patch, so it is really good for tankability. We then have 8 points in the Beastmaster with 8 points in Ursane Strength for more damage reduced from nearby enemies, another 16% damage reduction as long as the things hitting you are close by. I'm just going to assume nearby means within 4 meters, which is roughly what would be considered the circle around the training dummy, I believe. So if anything's within like what that circle would be if you were the training dummy, you'll take a little less damage from them. And then we've got 78 points in the Shaman, which has 8 points in Shamanic Infusion, 3 points in Ancient Stones, 8 points in Silent Protector, 8 points in Tempest Form, 10 points in Windbringer, 1 point in Hailbringer, 5 points in Shattered Heavens, 5 points in Protective Circle. We will have Thorn Totems constantly being procced. This will give us all of our physical and elemental resist, so you only need to focus on Void, Necrotic, and Poison on gear, which makes it really easy to stack lots of HP and critical strike avoidance, which you could also get from Blessings and from Idols. So really the only thing you need to focus on is HP and those 3 elements. Then we have Ruin of Awe, which gives us more adaptive spell damage. 8 points in Elemental Shrines gives us more mana regen as well as attunement. 6 points in Swirling Maelstrom means when we do get hit, there's a chance that we will cast another Maelstrom stack, which will give us more than the 6 or 7 we have. This is good, which means when you get hit and you get a stack of this, it means that you're going to increase the amount of dodge you have, so it's less likely you'll get hit, and you'll increase the amount that you're being healed for every second. So it's actually beneficial to get hit with this build, as long as it's proccing some extra Maelstrom stacks for you. And then 8 points in Ascendant Circle for increased spell damage per active totem, and we'll have 5 totems active most of the time for 160% increased spell damage. For items and idols, so we do have one unique. We have the Wings of Argentis. The main point of this is it just adds a lot of damage reduction to the build since we're always moving. That means that we'll have 40% less damage taken, and then there's also a 40% chance to gain haste per second on hit, and we'll have Ice Thorns always going out and obviously Avalanche always going off to get hits, so you get a lot of haste and you take a lot less damage, which turns into a really nice speed running chess piece. This works on several other builds as well, and that makes up for the fact that it's really hard to farm. So you go to the level 60 timeline, you have to have it empowered, and then you just take on the boss quite a few times. It has about a 14% drop rate, but once you have one, it's very beneficial for a lot of builds such as this speedrunning build or Warpath builds. Anything with high movement that's constantly on the move is really nice with it. For our crafted items, we have a 2-handed staff. For our rings, you want mana regen on almost every slot you can get it. That's the belt. That's going to be the rings. It's also going to be the relic. That's also where we have the +2 to avalanche. Now, we didn't get very good rolls with endurance. You can definitely bring that up, or you can get more HP if you want. And then for the amulet, we got a really nice exalted one that dropped for us. The chance to shock on hit is useless, as well as the added mana, but the mana regeneration really brought it up to a level where we never had to worry about going into negative mana, and we could actually use lunge or leap more often, which was really nice. And then for the boots, movement speed, critical strike avoidance, attunement works well, and increased armor. Increased dodge would do you better because you're trying to get as much dodge as possible. And then for the gloves, we've got cast speed, attunement, endurance threshold, and endurance. Now again, the cast speed not really needed. Attunement also not super needed. You can basically put whatever prefix. I'd worry about those last. The endurance is more important as it will keep you alive longer. For the idols, we've got chance to summon a totem on hit, as well as increased cold damage per active totem. This is going to boost the damage by Maelstrom, Ice Thorns, and Avalanche. And then we have some 1x2s with necrotic resist, as well as 1x1s with necrotic resist, which leads us to the character sheet to show you the resistances that we do have. And for these, you can see that we have almost capped void, almost capped necrotic. We're pretty low on poison, and the rest we don't worry about because, like I said, as soon as we use our Thorn totems just once, all of those are capped, and you're going to always have these active because you're doing so many hits that even with just one idol to proc them, they're going to get procced enough that you always have it, and that will give you the capped out physical and elemental resist. We got about 22% armor and 4% dodge. Again, the dodge is going to go up if I put Maelstrom on autocast here as it starts to stack. And again, a lot of our gear pieces are not optimized. If you put increased dodge rating on both the amulet and you put it on your belt as well as the boots, you're going to get much higher dodge amounts than we have here. But even here, once you start to get towards the maximum stacks, you'll notice that we're sitting at about 12 to 13% dodge. When we take a hit, we'll get another stack. If you put increased dodge rating on a few pieces, you can easily get it to 20, 30, even 40% dodge, depending how much increased dodge rating you put on. Because right here, we have about a 400 flat rating. If you can get to 300% increased, that'll put you all the way up to about 1500 dodge, which is a decent amount. And then for how to run this build, the skills, just everything goes on autocast, and all you have to do is just run around and lunge if you want. Now, sitting here, we have, with the totems active, about 24 mana regen. We have 22 without the totems, and we can get up to 25 if you count in the 12% that we get from Tornado as well. So with 25 mana regen, you can see we absolutely have no problem. Our mana is going to stay full the entire time, and we're just going to run around. We've got the speed from Tornado. We're getting haste on hit thanks to the chest piece, so we just absolutely fly through. If you want, you can spec into Tornado, or not Tornado, you can spec into Storm Totem instead of Ice Thorns, and you can set the Storm Totem up to give you more move speed. I believe it gives up to 40% more move speed if it's hit a chilled or shocked enemy recently, and that will allow you to get even more move speed, but you would have to stop every now and then and actually cast out a Storm Totem. I didn't want to do that, so this is the setup we have. Again, huge speed running. And let me turn on the damage numbers for you here so you can see how much damage it's doing. You can see we're hitting for about 8k with each hit that we do. We crit for just over 10. And then, of course, we get the damage over time from all the Maelstrom stacks in there, which you can see are ticking for about 4,000 to 6,000 damage each. And then, of course, Ice Thorns are getting in their little hits, hitting for a few hundred damage in there. So it's quite a bit of damage, especially if you're right on top of a mob and just kind of circle around. Things that hurt this build, getting stunned. You try not to get hit. That's why having as much dodge as possible is nice, because getting stunned not only stops you, but if you take hits while stunned, you're not moving and you don't get the 40% damage reduction from the chest piece. So try not to get stunned like it's possible, but again, just get more dodge and it becomes less and less of a thing. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you find some really good mana regen items. It should be easy enough, especially in Corrupted or Empowered Echoes. It seemed to be dropping for us. We got like 5 Exalted mana regeneration items in less than 2 hours that we did on stream last night. And that's going to be it for this. As always, stay safe, travelers, and enjoy some gameplay.